Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Nazrin bin Nazrun. In this video, I want to introduce to you about our project that we believe will help our industry. First off, manual handling task activity often led to musculoskeletal disorder in all industry. Prolonged musculoskeletal disorder may lead to disastrous consequences. This problem has plagued all industry, as every industry will always involve human to work further. Remember, the most important step for every ergonomic risk assessment are identify, assess, and determine how severe the risk of the manual handling task activity that being performed by human before proposing some kind of control measure. This led to the normal way of using an assessment in the guideline introduced in Ergonomic Risk Assessment at Workplace 2017, which was introduced by DOSH. These guidelines has been a trustworthy method to assess ergonomic related activity, but there is one problem when using this method: the paperwork, which is still in the pen paper base. Paperwork was done using pen paper base was an important method for documenting assessment that have been done, but to do it involve careful assessment, calculation, analysis of the manual handling task activity. The process collecting data and analysis need to be done manually, which will cause time loss, especially when involve other people. Because of that, I want to help to accelerate the time taken to produce an assessment. There was also another problem, and that problem is the storing method. When using a paper for the documentation of the assessment, there will be a need to store it in a file, and the said file need to be stored in a cabinet. There will be a time taken to find and extract data when needed. DOSH Malaysia has published a guideline on ergonomic risk assessment era at workplace in 2017 to promote an occupational environment for person at work which is adapted to their physiological and psychological needs. However, the era still need to be conducted manually using pen and paper base by the ergonomic trained person, ETP. Therefore, it is important to digitalize the ERA checklist, become ERA system, so it will be easy to assess, record, improve data sharing, as access, and also decision making. The objective of this project was to develop IERA system based on the guidelines on the ergonomic risk assessment at Workplace 2017. For the methodology, the first important step was to understand the initial era written by DOSH. This was an important step to do, as the detailed knowledge need to be obtained first before we proceed with the development of the IERA system. The second step, some documentation of real case study that being used for the system testing purpose. The case study was verified by a trained person. The third step, to understand how to use the CMDQ, which is the Corneal Musculoskeletal Disorder Questionnaire, and how to analyze the result to develop an effective system. Only after the previous three steps have been done, the fourth step, which was completing the development of IERA system. The fourth step was done with the fifth step simultaneously. The fifth step was the development of the framework of the IERA system. The seventh step was dedicated for improving record keeping, and this system successfully produced the initial era and CMDQ report that can be stored digitally in PDF file if the user desired to do so. More importantly, this system also helps store relevant data for each section, which will be covered in the technical element storage inside the IERA system. The eighth step, which was the validation process, which in this case the content validity index method was used, and three trained ergonomists was evaluating the IERA system items and variables. They have determined that all the item variable was relevant to the system. The reliability test was done as the ninth step, which entailed the agreement between two almost similar outcomes from two trained persons that used the system based on the same scenario. Based on the Cohen-Kappa statistic technique, it was concluded that both outcomes are almost perfectly the same, thus meant that their understanding of the system was similar. For the last step, which was the 10th step, for the usability of the system, System Usability Scale (SUS) was utilized using SHO from a service industry, which was from Poslaju Malaysia, because they agreed to do the collaboration with this research. Another SHO was from manufacturing industry, which produced paper. They determined that the score for this system was 68.75, which indicate that this system are in a range of good based on the grading scale of the SUS. In order to solve this issue, we have come up with one system called IERA system. This system follows the guideline introduced by Dosh for ergonomic. This system separates to two main parts, which are the initial ergonomic risk assessment and coronal musculoskeletal disorder questionnaire. The first main part, which are the initial ergonomic risk assessment system, was developed to help competent person, for example, the ergonomic trained person, which also known as ETP, or for people who have some knowledge in conducting initial era. The initial era will be separated to 10 main section. Section 1 being the most important one, as it is for the registration detail for initial ergonomic risk assessment. This section has data input called assessment ID, which is important in order to differentiate every single assessment done for every activity. Thus, it need to be different each time. For the section 2 and 3 and section 5, also section 6, show the user need to tick the checkbox if the risk factor has exceeded the maximum exposure duration limit. Section 4, which are the forceful exertion, are separated into 4 subsections, which require the user to only choose one from 4 subsections. Section 4.1, 4.2, 4.3 and 4.4. Special feature in the subsection 4.1, lifting and lowering, has automatic calculation that only require the user to choose the code for the category stated in the picture. Another useful feature includes in section 7, 8, 9 and 10. There are files of the guidelines of ICOP involved in this section that can be viewed by user if the user wants to. The last section, which is section 11, result of initial ergonomic risk assessment, which require user to extract data from previous section 2 through section 9 based on the count of yes. Count of yes will be the number of tick checkbox. The user need to decide whether they need to tick the checkbox if the activity required advanced ergonomic risk assessment. For the second main part, which is the CMDQ, which also known as coronal musculoskeletal disorder questionnaire, which was developed to be used by all people. This second main part are separated to 2 sections, which are section 12, CMDQ registration, and section 13, CMDQ. It only required that the user to enter relevance data. For the inventiveness, the objective of the innovation is to develop IERA system based on the guideline by the Department of Occupational Safety and Health of Malaysia, DOS 2017. The development of this system will provide an alternative way that will be more efficient as time is priceless. IERA system with the capability of storing data digitally and can be reviewed or extracted if desired. The system also helps the user, especially the ergonomic trained person, which also known as ETP, by providing relevant data or documents relating to the occupational safety and health, in hope that they can know a little bit of everything about other aspects of ergonomics, and if they want to further their knowledge in those fields. Novelty, IERA system is the development of ergonomic risk assessment checklist from the traditional way, which was by using pen and paper based, to digitalization. A system that is relevant for industry, especially tailored for Ergonomic Trained Person, which also known as ETP, to be used will be more integrated and efficient as time is priceless. ERA system with the capability of storing data digitally and can be reviewed and extracted if desired. And for the next one is about the usefulness and the application of this project. The IERA system will help the ergonomic risk assessment method accessible by all industry and easy to understand by every level of organization. Ergonomic risk assessment reports need to be stored for years following OSHA Act 1994. This system is digitalizing the existing guideline and making it so that the data can be stored remotely for everyone to view. There are now no need for an organization to waste their time to find the file that contain the initial ergonomic risk assessment for an activity. If they use this system, they can store everything digitally and they will be eco-friendly, as there will be no waste to be using paper and file for storing purposes unless it is absolutely necessary. Application being that the IERA system could be used by our industry, especially ergonomic trained person (ETP), to assess ergonomic risk factor to minimize and prevent from work-related musculoskeletal disorder. The publication of the development of initial ergonomic risk assessment IERA system submitted to International Journal of Industrial Engineering Computation. The IERA system copyright submitted to PNI UMP. This project internally grateful to UMP because they have funded the project, and UMP resources was one of the reasons that this project was successfully completed. Last but not least, product development completion was indebted to its collaboration, which was Pos Malaysia Berhad, because without them, valuable real case study cannot be obtained. Not to forget the safety health officer from Next Green Palm and Paper Sendirian Berhad for participating in this project for the testing of the system.